If you're just getting started in Escape from Tarkov, then your first couple of quests are probably telling you to go into this map called Customs. What those quests aren't telling you is how to get out of this map called Customs, so that's what we're going to tell you today. This right here is a map of Customs. So as you can see, there are a bunch of things marked on the map. The PMC extracts, which are the only ones we're talking about today, are the turquoise and the light blue ones around the edge of the map. The orange ones are for scavs only, so we're not really talking about those, but when you're in a raid and you're trying to figure out where you can go to extract, Customs works very similarly to most other maps in Tarkov, and that is, when you spawn on one half, the extracts available to you are mostly going to be on the other half of the map. So there are some special exceptions for that rule, but for the most part, it's a good way to think of things. It's important to note that even if you're in a raid and you see some of these extracts in your list, they are not always all going to be available. So first things first, we're going to go through and see what each of these extracts looks like in game. We'll go over whether or not they're always available, and if they're not always available, we'll talk about how you can tell when you are able to use them. Starting on the bottom of the left half, we're going to talk about the RUAF Roadblock. This one is always available to you. It's just this big blue gate at the end of the road with a transport vehicle and a tank next to it. RUAF Roadblock is generally pretty easy to find because it's at the southern end of one of the only north and south oriented roads on the entire map. And it's right next to this very large river, so if you find the river and make sure you're on the east side of it, you can pretty much just run up and down the bank until you find this one. And it's important to note that Customs is not a very tall map, so even if you do accidentally go to the north end of the road, it's not going to take you very long to go to the south end instead, because there's also a lot of cover down on the riverbank, so it is relatively easy to actually go from the north end to the south end here. But next up, we have a trailer park in the southwest corner, also for the left side. There's not much to look at here, but the trailer park extract is always available so long as it's in your list of extracts in-game. That is to say, if you spawned on the east half of the Customs map, you'll always be able to come over here, and so long as you're in this little wooded area, kind of on the south side of this rock and kind of near these fences here, kind of anywhere in this bushy area, it's a really large zone that you can stand in. You'll be able to just get out so long as you wander around in there a couple seconds. So next we're going to go over Crossroads. This is also on the northwest corner of the map. It's really not far from Trailer Park, but this one is the corner with two big blue gates on it. If you remember RUAF Roadblock, that was just one big blue gate. This one is one gate on each face of this corner. There's another armored personnel carrier here and a blue van with its doors open and a box inside. You can loot that. There's another box, you can see it in the window here. On the other side of the van, that's also lootable. But this one is also always available so long as it's in your list. This is probably one of the ones I use most because I really like running around the west half of Customs. And like I said, this one's always available. It's pretty easy to spot, and it's just isolated. Not many people come over here, so this is definitely a good place to learn. After that, we got Smuggler's Boat. This is the one unreliable extract on the west half of the map. It is this little boat, as the name implies, in the river. You'll be able to tell whether or not this extract is available to you so long as this campfire is on. So long as the fire is lit up, then you'll be able to go into this bush by the boat. You can actually stand kind of close to the campfire. You can actually stand on the campfire, but I don't recommend that because it does hurt very badly, and it can kill you. So as long as you're kind of in this little area, you'll be in the extract zone and you'll be able to get out. That's it for the extracts that are explicitly on the west half of the map. So next we're going to the center line at the Dorms Vehicle extract. So this extract is one of the special exceptions to the whole east-west spawn and extract dichotomy we have going on in most of this game. No matter where you spawn, this extract will be in your list and available to you. The question is whether or not the car has spawned in each raid, or if someone has used it already. It is single use and it's not always available by default. So some raids the car just may not be there, and if it did spawn there but someone else has used it, if you come through, the car will just not be there. That gate will be closed. It'll be a big red wall instead. So basically, if you see the car, it's available. And so long as you have 5,000 rubles to pay to the vehicle, for the cab fare, of course, you'll be able to start a 1-minute timer So long as you're standing next to the car when that timer expires, then it will take you out. So the 1 minute timer is a pretty big disadvantage because it's kind of dangerous, especially in this location. Standing by dorms for 1 minute, this is a very high traffic area. So this one's pretty risky to use, but what makes the 1 minute timer not so bad is that you can walk away from the vehicle while the timer runs. You can go as far as you want and it won't stop. So long as you're back within a couple feet of the vehicle when the timer expires, then it will take you out just the same way it would have if you had stood next to it the whole time. So that's pretty much that one. The other special exception in the center of the map here is ZB013. This one's in the basement of one of the large construction buildings in the kind of dusty construction area. This one is always available. It's always in your list and you can always use it. But there are two conditions you have to satisfy in order to use it, and that is, first, there's a lever in one of the warehouses on the map that you have to pull to turn power onto this area. And second of all, there's a door right here that requires you to use a factory emergency exit key. And once you have turned power on and unlocked the door, then you can just walk right into the little hallway that's over there and get out of the map. Beyond just the conditions you have to meet to use this extract, this one is located in a pretty dangerous area. It's called the Fortress, or Reshalah's Fortress, because Reshalah, the scav boss of this map, tends to spawn here pretty often, and even if he doesn't spawn here, then it's got a lot of loot that's undefended, which makes for prime opportunity to encounter other players who are looking for all that loot. So use this one cautiously. We'll go over where the lever is and how to get to it and how to get back here later on in the video, but for now, just know this one's in the basement of one of the very large buildings, and it's pretty dangerous. Next, we're on the east half of the map. First of all, we have in the south here, Old Gas Station. As the name implies, it's just an old gas station. We don't really have much pictured of the actual gas station itself. This is kind of the big awning, and to my left and right are the gas pumps. But the extract itself is inside this building. There's a little door in the back that leads to some stairs, and then at the bottom of those stairs is the actual place where you extract. This one is not always open, so again, even if it's on your list, sometimes you may not be able to use it. The way you can tell if it is open is whether or not these green flares are here, and the extract Old Gas Station is on your list. Then you can go into this building, go down the stairs, and be able to extract just fine. But even if it's on your list and the flares are off, then there's nothing you can do here. While it's sad that this one's not always open, there is another fallback nearby. Sadly, this one isn't 100% reliable either, but it is not very difficult to check if you find that Old Gas Station is closed. This is a bunker just a little east along some train tracks. It's really not hard to see in these bushes. It's just like this big sore concrete thumb with a big old searchlight on it. The way you can tell if this is open or not is if the searchlight is on, then you can go in and extract if it's in your list. However, if the searchlight is not on, sometimes it's a little hard to tell by looking at the light itself. The way I have an easier time telling is looking at the ground for all this. But yeah, so long as you see that stuff lit up, good to go, then you're good to go inside there. But if that one isn't open, then your final fallback will be in the southeast corner, ZB1011. This one is always open, and you can always rely on it. It's a little farther from ZB12 than Old Gas is, but it's still not a terribly long or dangerous run to go from 12 to 11. Again, it's just another sore thumb bunker right in the middle of a bunch of bushes. Nothing to look at here. If it's in your list, ZB11 will always be available to you and you can always use it. So if you make it over here alive, good to go, then you can just open the door, go down the stairs and go right on in, and that'll take you out of the map. So that covers all of the extracts available to PMCs. If you're just looking to see what they all look like, then this is probably the end of what will be interesting to you. But if you want a little more information on how to use each of these, then next we're going to go over some of the routes that I use to reach each one and talk about what situations lead me to decide on one extract versus another. So whether you intend to continue watching or not, if you found this video helpful so far, then I would really appreciate it if you would dab on that like button, yeet that subscribe, and turn notifications on. And yeah, let's go over some routes. Alright, first things first, we're going to talk about the routes that I take from the east half of the map to the RUAF roadblock. There are two choke points that kind of limit traffic from the east half towards RUAF roadblock. The first one is at Old Gas Station. Basically, this wall here on the map kind of blocks everything off, and there's a door just west of Old Gas that will let you pass and go into the west half of the map from there. So this is the door in the wall. You just go right through that, and that puts you on these train tracks. Running to the left of those train tracks puts you in this little divot that gives you a lot of cover from pretty much anything in this main section of the zone over here. Sometimes there is a sniper scav who can ping shots at you if you stick your head too far up, but for the most part you'll be safe here. The one very important thing to note is to watch out for this sign on this big archway here over this train. What this means is that if you go past this archway, even if you don't go on the train tracks, even if you're down here, if you go that way, it's out of bounds, and you will get shot by a magical invisible sniper who always hits his shots and will kill you in about 3 hits. And sadly, he always goes for the legs first, so be very careful not to go too far south here. And when you see that sign, turn right and go over the train tracks and into the main section of this area, this construction area here. So that's Reshalah's fortress. That little tower behind it with the little pipe here, that's one of the spots that Sniper Scav can spawn and shoot down on pretty much anyone who has a line of sight on him. It's important to be careful when you're walking through here because A, this is a commonly traveled route for other players, and B, Reshalah and his guards can spawn in that fortress, and sometimes they get a little antsy and will run out to chase people they see in this area. It's not often that they run that far, but it has happened before. When you get to this pile of junk, it helps to jump over it because it's very loud, but once you hit that corner you turn left, watch out for that little divot because people can hide in there. That building in front of us is called Crack House. There's a lot of medical supplies and can be some valuable intelligence spawns in here, so people do come here often. One sign you can look for to tell if someone has gone into this building from this door right here is if that door is closed. By default, that door spawns open, so if you see that it isn't open anymore, that means someone has closed it and most likely hasn't come out of it. So if you do see that door closed while you're going this way, be very careful of these windows. If you are paranoid, then you can like run around this little bunker, take cover, and you know, throw grenades or just wait for them to move on or something like that. So from here, if the coast is clear, you keep going along this wall here, hop over the stuff. There's more metal here that makes a ton of noise, so either jump it or go around it. You keep following this wall until you get to this little hole here, and you can just go right around it. There's some garages here. There's a lot of scavs that spawn in here, so you have to be very careful when you do round that corner, and just keep your eyes open. It's very likely that you'll find anywhere from 1 to 3 if no one has come through and cleared them out already. But if you do win your fight or don't find anybody or anything, you can just run right along to this road, and that takes you into the extract zone. So yeah, pretty straightforward, just kind of following walls the whole time. The big thing to look out for is this spot where you can get sniped by the border sniper is what they call them. Watch out for the sniper scav on the tower, and then anyone in Crack House. The other route I'll usually take from the east half of the map to the RUAF Roadblock extract starts a little ways north of the old gas route, except it starts on this main road, kind of outside this big wall that partitions off the construction area from the rest of the map. So we start out here, like I said, on the main road. There's some vehicles with some barbed wire. In front of us is the bus stop, and behind that is dorms. This is the skeleton over here. There's a gap in the wall with some storage containers in it. You got to be careful. There is barbed wire in front of that storage container, but going through that container lets you into this walled off area. It's a little more covered from dorms, which is higher traffic than this section. There are quite a few scavs that can spawn kind of in this bunkhouse and divot. Sometimes scavs from the road can see you, and this is probably the most exposed area to dorms in this route, but thankfully it's not a huge gap in the wall that we have to run past. So if you're zooming, then dorms people will be focused on dorms, and you can be focused on getting through here alive. This divot is kind of like the no scavs land between the ones that spawn behind us and the ones that spawn in here. Sometimes there's 1 or 2 running around in these tanks. Usually there's 1 to 3 more on the other side of them, kind of in this courtyard area. Thankfully, it's pretty easy to catch them by surprise because a lot of the times they're just staring at the containers, or they're not really looking at anything in particular. So if you creep through here pretty carefully, and especially if you have a suppressor on your weapon, then it's pretty easy to take them out without ever actually fighting them or letting them fire anything. But from here, if you get to this wall, after running across all that open area, then there are a number of different ways you can take to actually get from here to the RUAF roadblock. You can go through this hole in the wall and out to this road, and then go left. Or you can just peek your head out here, like if you need scav kills. There are a lot of quests that require scav kills on this map. There are several spawns out here, so if you have a mid-range weapon, you can poke your head out this wall, see if there's anything on the road, pop it, and then go right back in. At the end of this road is also a pretty commonly used route to go from the east half to the west half, where the Crossroads extract and things of that nature are. So from here, there's another hole in the wall that you can take. This one's just on the edge of the wall that kind of partitions off the RUAF roadblock area from the northern area. But again, there can be a couple scavs over here, and you have a little bit of a line of sight over to that same area as before, if this is where you'd rather pop out. Sometimes some scavs can be just on this side of the wall over here. A little hard to see with all these bushes, but this will also give you a wider line of sight on any scavs in the garages by RUAF roadblock. If there are any in the open beforehand, if you want to shoot them from farther away, you can use that hole. Or if you just want to push in, you can use this last one right by the red brick building. This is probably the one I use most often, just because it's easier to run up on scavs and take them out with a headshot while you're on the run. So just clear through these little alleyways between the buildings and on the road and everything. Make sure you're good. And once all the fighting is done, or there's no fighting at all, then you can just keep moving down this road right to the blue gate like we talked about. Pretty much anywhere near this light post will get you right on out of here. There is a lot of scavs on that route, but if you are equipped to take care of them, then it's kind of good XP, and especially if you're looking for scav kills, like I said, for quests. If you've already looted on the east half of the map and you're trying to get out, and you just want a couple extra scav kills on the way out, then this is a particularly good route to run. Moving on to the next extract on the west half of the map, on the other side of the river, we have Trailer Park in the southwest corner. There's pretty much one time I ever use this, and that's if I'm playing with friends and they have quest items and they want to get out at RUAF roadblock, and I still have room in my pockets and I don't have quest items, then I will generally leave them at the roadblock to extract, and then I'll run across the river myself and come loot this big warehouse called Big Red. Its name is pretty self-explanatory. That is, it's big and it's red. There's a big old office in there with a safe and some computers and stuff that are nice to loot. And you basically run out the big door on the long end of the building and just come south here and go through this hole in the wall, this door in the wall, and from there you take a right. There's very few people you're going to run into on this side of the map, especially if it's late in the raid. Like, maybe in the first 5 to 10 minutes you have a pretty good chance of running into someone, especially if they're going after the safe in Big Red. But beyond that, you're probably safe here a solid like 80% of the time, at least, if not 90. But from there, it's like once you turn that right out of the Big Red compound, then you're pretty much good to go to straight into this trailer park. It's called Trailer Park. It's more of a forest, really, but, you know, I just go by the names they give it. So, run into the woods, escape from the trailer park. Simple. Moving north, next we're going to talk about Crossroads. Basically, if you're ever going from the east half of the map to the west half of the map, you're probably going to want to check Smuggler's boat first, just because it's on the way, basically, and it's much closer to the east half than Crossroads is. So that's where we'll be starting. Like, say you go here and you see the fire is not lit, you can't use it. So your only real option at this point is to either go south to RUAF roadblock or stay a little bit safer, a little bit more covered for a slightly longer run, and go south a little ways along the river over this junk bridge with the storage container. Sometimes there are people on that bridge, rarely, but sometimes, so it's good to keep a lookout. Follow this wall pretty much the rest of the way down to the corner of it, but it's important once you hit these train tracks especially to look out for people. Again, sometimes there are people who do actually go loot Big Red. Most of the time it's not after the 10-minute mark, but it's always good to be a little careful. One thing to look out for is that there's a door in this wall that leads into Big Red's compound. That spawns closed, so if you see that it's been opened, that means someone else has opened it and left it open. So when you see that, it's especially good to maintain caution. There's another hole in this wall here, and there's a hole in the wall of this storage unit field that they both kind of open up into this little alley. So this spot is particularly important to keep watch on. Sometimes scavs run between the areas, sometimes players are going between, and there's even like a little trench in there that it's important to, or that it's easy to like not see someone in because they're not like full height. So while you're going through that part in particular, just keep an eye on that alleyway. But once you're past it, there's very few spots that people can actually see you. You can run right up to this door and extract on this side, or if you want, you can go around this vehicle and go grab some of the boxes like right there or on the other side of it. It's pretty hard to grab the box right there because that's actually inside of the zone where you're extracting, so the timer will always be running. But at least the one in the back of the van is very easy to get. So alright, moving further east, we have the main route that I take anytime I'm looking to go to Smuggler's boat. That is right along this north wall, starting from Dorm's vehicle extract, because generally if I'm on the north half of the map and going from the east side to the west, then I'll usually just run along this wall the entire length of the map. So it's pretty straightforward, but we're going to go over some things to look out for while you're on this path, especially assuming either you don't want to go through the vehicle extract because sitting in dorms is scary, or because the car is there, car's gone, either it hasn't spawned or has been used already. But basically, yeah, you just run along this wall. This field here on the left is usually pretty safe. Campsite has a small risk of player encounters because there's a duffel bag and an ammo box to be looted there, but the more dangerous part is a little to the left here on that hill. It's kind of blocked by the map, but a lot of people will sit up on that hill and just kind of overlook the main road in this area or over at this wall in this campsite. So definitely be careful when you're running past that hill. I've gotten killed from there and on there many times myself. When you're running along this wall, watch out for this barbed wire that hangs down. It's very easy to run into that. If you go too close, it will make a ton of noise and it'll hurt you like a little bit. But from here, you're going to want to look out for scavs on this road. They can go all the way down. Sometimes they spawn here, sometimes they're in this bush, sometimes they're just on the road. But even if they're as far back as that little white building way out there, they will see you while you're going over here, so make sure you see them first. Again, watch out for barbed wire. Stuff's vicious. It sneaks up on you. But from there, you just kind of curve around the wall, and right here is the river, and as you can see, there's smoke, so we know we can actually use this in this scenario. So the extract zones are right there. And if not, if that smoke wasn't there, then we could just continue on the same route that we went over previously and make our way to Crossroads. So again, pretty straightforward. Just be careful on that hill and the camp, and you should be good to go. So next we're going to talk about the dorm vehicle extract. In all honesty, I very rarely use this, even when I have the opportunity. Like if I'm running from the east to the west and I run by this wall and see that the car is there, most of the time I'll ignore it just because I really don't like sitting in front of dorms for a whole minute. Unless I have friends or it's like the final minutes of a raid, then I'll do it, because if it's not gone by that point, then it's probably going to be fine. So what a lot of people do when they come into dorms is they go to what's called the marked room, which is room 314 at the top floor of the 3-story dorm. So the kind of the most convenient use for the vehicle extract when it's there is to get into your raid, loot the marked room, and get out really quickly. So a quick way to do that is to go in through that door we just went in, clear in here. Sometimes Rashala and his guards can be in here, but the marked room is the one with all these like lightning bolts and stuff scribbled all over the wall. If you have the dorm room 314 marked key, which is very expensive, you can unlock that door, get some stuff out of there. Usually it's like really good loot. It got a little nerfed in 12.12, but it used to be like scav cases and lunch boxes and things like that, or not lunch boxes, like the coolers, the holodilniks, that kind of thing could spawn in there. But from there, once you get your loot, you run back down the stairway inside to the second floor. Again, make sure you're clearing the whole way. There can be all sorts of stuff here. PvP happens in this room all the time. You can go right out the back door and straight down to the vehicle extract. So it's simple. It's dangerous because a lot of people want to go to that room, but this is an effective route to go and a way to use the vehicle extract. And like we mentioned earlier, you can kind of run wherever you want to go hide, sit in the bushes on one side, on the other side, hide behind the door, do what you want. Could even run away if you want to. So long as you make it back in time, you'll get out just fine. The next thing we're going to talk about is the other special extract on the map, that is ZB013, and mainly we're going to go over how to turn the power on to actually enable the extract, and then show you how to find the door that you need to unlock with the factory exit key. But basically, it's located at the bottom of this big fortress. It's the more completed of the two really large structures that are still in construction, but the power for the extract is in this warehouse over here that we circled our pistol on. You can either go the way we're about to go, or you can go over past Old Gas through that wall and then under the bridge into this warehouse. But if you don't want to go all the way around like that, there's a cheeky little shortcut. You can hop over this wall right here, and that just kind of plops you right under the right in front of the warehouse you need. But if you were to go from Old Gas, this is where you would come out from under the bridge. So you just go past that train car that's on its side and then take a left to this door right in front of us. This is warehouse number 4. You can see it marked on the corner there. But you can get there from outside as well, but this is just a lot safer because there's, as far as I know, there are no scavs that spawn in here. And there are several that spawn outside. So you just come in. This is kind of split off into two sections, like long ways. So you run through the first half into the back half, and then we want to go in this little office on the back right corner. It's really dark and kind of hard to see, but once you do find the door, you can go in. There's another door that starts open, a door on your right that starts open, and if you want light, you can open that door straight across. So you can actually see this is just the outside. If you went around the outside along the length of the warehouse, this is where you would come in, but the lever is right there in that door that was open to our right. And as you can see, if the exfil text is white like this and not green like these ones, then that means power has not been turned on. So once we do actually hit the lever, that'll turn green. And even if you don't hit the lever yourself, if you open up that list of extracts and see that ZB013 is lit up green, then you'll be able to know that you can actually use 13 without having to go through warehouse 4. So from here, the simplest pathway to go is kind of the reverse through Old Gas that we pointed out earlier. So back under the bridge, and then make sure you don't get shot by scavs or people up on the bridge above you or anything like that. It's really important to clear this place because it's kind of a hotbed of activity. Run past the blue fence over to the door in the wall, and instead of going down to the left, taking cover in the train tracks and everything, we're going to want to go to the right and then cross over the train tracks as soon as we can get around the cars. And yeah, make our way through the open. This place is pretty dangerous again, especially if Rashala's boys are out here. Sniper Scav can be on those white towers up there. The boys can be up there, they can be on the ground by that red container, they can be like inside peeking out. Thankfully we don't have to go inside on that level. You can go to the left here into this little trench, and that has a nice pathway underneath. And there's a door right here that you can see the spotlight that we looked at originally for ZB13. And right on the left is the door. If you have the factory emergency exit key, you can get in. Or if someone else has already used this, then you don't need the key, or you don't need to do the power yourself at all. You can just follow along after them, use the unlocked door once they've taken care of it for you. Next, we're going to talk about how to get to that extract from the inside of the fortress, rather than from that trench outside. But basically we're on the north end. That's the skeleton, and behind us is the fortress. That's kind of what I call the two big construction buildings. So from the north end we want to go inside, stay on the left, And just again, be careful for players and the boss. Cut a right when you round that corner, and it's the door on the right before the exit. So once you go down this basement, it's pretty much right there. This is that doorway that the flashlight is pointing to. So from here, again, the door may already be unlocked by someone, especially if you see if they've already put the effort in to turn the power on. And yeah, pretty dangerous, but useful in a tight situation. Next up is the old gas station extract. It's not always reliable, but it is pretty easy to check because it's got a nice overlook that lets you check whether or not it's open pretty easily. For this route, we'll be starting at the new gas station, which is just a little ways north. This is one of the routes I use most to reach old gas. The other one I use most is from RUAF Roadblock to old gas, but we already went over that route except going the other way, so I'm not going to go over it again because that would just be going over the same stuff backwards. But basically, as a quick recap, you just kind of go along this wall, past Crack House, around the corner, go to the train tracks, make sure you don't get shot by the border sniper, hide behind the train tracks, and go up to the wall. Now for the route that we haven't gone over, I didn't know about this one for a very long time because I didn't actually look at this map close enough and see this text that's kind of blocked out by this line, but it says shortcut. I never looked into what that meant, and I just thought this was always like a fully impenetrable wall here. But yeah, it turns out it's not as impenetrable as I thought, and it took me way too long to learn, but we'll go over just what you can do to get through that yourself. So here we are at New Gas. We got the military checkpoint over there, the hills, the dorms are that way, the bus stop, and then the skeleton is over there. And right here we have that wall. This building I thought was completely locked down. I thought there was nothing you could do for a very long time. Turns out if you have the factory emergency exit key, same one you used to open up ZV13, you can open up that door. The only downside is there are two doors and they both require the emergency exit key. This is on the left. There's some loot in that room and you can peek out windows to see. But if you have enough charges on your exit key, you can open both doors and make your way all the way through. Now we're inside. An important note, it is particularly important to close those doors just so people don't realize that it's been opened already and go through themselves and follow you. So yeah, from here it's just a straight shot. You can go through that warehouse 4 like we did in the ZV13 section. But from here I usually like to, rather than go under the bridge or on top of the train cart on that little plank bridge, I like to go up on the right, and this keeps us covered by that red storage container, and we can kind of peek around the corner for scavs, players, or anyone down in the area. And you can look from here for the flares over there, and I guess like on the left side, and then some down here on the floor. Sometimes the lighting is bugged a little bit and they're like really dark and hard to see until you get about here, so you might actually have to run into the zone a little bit to see it. But assuming they are on, you run inside through that door in the front and then in the back and down the stairs, and once you get to this little sealed door, then that's where you stand to actually get out. Now say you take that previous route and you get to the bridge and you see that there are no flares at all. There's no lighting bug, and you can tell very clearly that there's just no way that that extract is open. Thankfully, there is a very easy fallback in ZV12, and it's very straightforward, especially if you're still on the bridge. It's not really hard to get back on the bridge from down there, but if you're still up here, you literally just take a left and follow the train tracks. There are a couple spots where scavs might take a pop at you. Sniper scav can be up on this warehouse here, either on that corner or on that corner further, like to the north. Sometimes scavs are wandering around in there. Sometimes players are inside the warehouse. But so long as you're not attacked while you're on this railroad, it's very straightforward to get here. It's like 100 feet. There you can see the searchlights on. And when you're going up to the bunker, be very careful of the bushes, as pretty much all of them have barbed wire in them. And it's very noisy, as barbed wire always is. Make sure you don't get pushed out of the way like by the door. Because again, you'll be in the barbed wire, and that's just noisy and bad. So yeah, you just go in. That's that. Alright, so originally we ran from new gas to old gas. Let's say we found that closed. So then we went to our fallback of ZB12, which is also unreliable. Turns out if that one's closed, our only real fallback is ZB11. It's not that far on the map, but the route is made a little more annoying by this big wall here. Sadly, there's nothing we can do to get through that or over it early. We just have to run around to this road where there's a gate and run around the old-fashioned way. So starting on the train tracks at ZB12, that's the side of the fence we want to be on. ZB11's right over there. But yeah, we have to make our way around. Watch out for the barbed wire again. It's very annoying to run into and easy to forget about. So from here, we just keep following the wall. There's not really many scavs that will bother you from the warehouse in this section. Most of them are kind of in the front area, and they more focus on the road up here. So make sure you check to the left here, as they may pop out and try and take shots at you. But this is kind of the most vulnerable area. There are a lot of scavs on the road and this section as well. This building has, like, basically all of these windows can be seen through by people, and in rare situations, people will camp up there and look for either cheeky scav kills or players running through. So if you do start taking shots here, chances are if it's not a scav, then it's probably a player sitting in this building, so you can dip to the right a little faster than you would if you're not in a hurry. Take cover by the train tracks. Sometimes people will sit in this train car and just prone and look to snipe people. Usually out at checkpoint, but if you cross their line of sight like that, chances are they'll take shots at you. But from here, if there's no one in any of those positions, then you can peacefully run along that road, hop the fence, turn this corner. You could go in that warehouse, but usually I find it simpler to stay outside. There's not really much to your right that's going to bother you once you're past that train car. To the left, there can be scavs. That's the same building that people could camp in before. In rare situations, you may run into people here, but there's not really much loot to be had, so beyond the first, like, 3 minutes of the raid, when someone spawns there and loots it, that's pretty safe. But yeah, once you're past that warehouse, then ZB11's the last building. It's right in the corner, and you can just go right on in. So there are some pretty dangerous spots on this route, but this is kind of the final fallback. So if none of the other ones are open, and you really don't want to go to ZB13, even with the dangers associated in these sections right here, once you're in the situation where you have to use it, then there's not really any alternative. So better to know what spots are dangerous and just do your best when you can. Alright, this is the final route we're going to talk about. It's the other pathway I would generally take to reach ZB11 when I'm not feeling like checking Old Gas or ZB12. If we're in the area of New Gas, then this way's a little longer than running to Old Gas through that shortcut, but we save ourselves the danger of running through this section if Old Gas and ZB12 end up being closed, which I'd say happens a good percentage of the time. The chances of them being open are far from guaranteed, so it does happen quite often that both are closed. So if I'm running around in the hills, then I'll circle around from the north side and just go straight to ZB11 that way. So New Gas is right there. We're kind of above it in the hills. This is the military checkpoint, which has a lot of scavs. Not much loot, but if you're looking for scav kills, that's a good spot. They run around by the buildings, they run around in the field, they run around along the road. Sometimes they're in the hills outside of New Gas, excuse me. They're not really so much on this side of the wall very often, but you know, once in 10 raids there might be one back here. Very often there is one in that little second story that is a sniper scav, so he will have like usually a Mosin or a SKS or something that can reach you from pretty far away if you have line of sight, so do be careful of that window. There's not really much back there. There is a cache like far in the corner, but not really much reason other than that for anyone to be out there. Over here, there is this storage container on our left can be entered, so make sure no one's camping there and getting ready to shoot you in the back. There's a toolbox in there and some loose provisions and weapon mods if you're looking for a little extra loot. From here you need to be careful of scavs on the road, people in the corner. There's a cache by the corner of that fence we just came through that we aimed at, but once you get to this point past that road, you need to be careful of those windows a little bit, and just in this area right there. But once you're past here, then you're pretty much through like 99.7% of the dangers. At this point, I've not really gotten attacked by anyone, unless they're like specifically camping this extract, like in the train tracks behind the door where they can have full line of sight. But even still, I've never really had that happen more than once. So yeah, once you're past the checkpoint, then I'd say 90% of the time you're pretty free and clear. And the danger in this checkpoint area is really all from scavs, whereas the danger on the route from ZB12 to ZB11 is more so from players. So it's all about what kind of risks you want to take, and just what feels right at the time for the raid, and where you, like, based on what sounds you're hearing, gunshots, grenades, and where those are all located. So do what makes you feel safest and what you feel is right. And ultimately, if you die, you'll die knowing you did your best. Well, that about covers all of the routes and decision making that I follow when I'm trying to figure out where to extract and how to get there. So I hope it helped. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I'll do my best to get back to them as soon as possible. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you download that like button, yeet that subscribe, and turn notifications on. And check out my channel for more Escape from Tarkov content in the future. Yeet!